Every once in a while, a guitar player will play a show that changes the way they are seen as a guitar player forever. Whether it be a stage antic or a truly legendary solo, these guitarists had a performance in their career that redefined how they would be seen in the guitar world. In the early 80s, Stevie Ray Vaughan and his band Double Trouble were popular in Texas at the time, but they were failing to get national attention. That all changed when record producer Jerry Wexler recommended them to Claude Nobbs, who was the organizer of the Montreux Jazz Festival. He insisted that the blues night at the festival would be great for Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble, and after hearing this recommendation, Nobbs agreed to book Double Trouble for July 17, 1982 at the Montreux Jazz Festival. The performance itself was actually met with mixed reactions. There were a lot of boos coming from the crowd, but there were also a lot of cheers. While the crowd reaction wasn't precisely what Stevie and his band were hoping for, among the attendees at Montreux 82 were David Bowie and Jackson Browne, and it certainly caught their attention in a good way. Jackson Browne invited them to use his studio for free use to record their first record, which they did, and they recorded 10 songs in 2 days. More importantly though, it caught the attention of David Bowie, who, after hearing the performance and meeting Stevie Ray, decided to invite him to play guitar on his album Let's Dance, which was his first big job in the pop realm, and almost instantly catapulted him into the public eye, and it gave him national attention. The album was very successful and sold 3 times more than Bowie's previous. This rolled into Stevie being invited on Bowie's live tour, which he infamously quit and rolled all that into a record deal that birthed his famous album, Texas Flood. So, essentially the 82 Montreux Jazz performance set up his career. It caught the attention of 2 majorly influential artists at the time, who eventually catapulted him into the spotlight, and birthed the legacy of one of the greatest blues guitarists ever. Clapton was well known from the beginning of his career, so it's hard to pin down a moment that redefined his legacy. But in 1992, his Unplugged album quietly did exactly that. By that point, he was already a legend. Cream, Derek and the Dominos, a successful solo career, but critics tended to think he was a bit past his prime and on the downslope of his career. But Unplugged showed a different side of him. Instead of his usual electric blues rock sound, he leaned into a laid-back acoustic vibe. He reworked songs like Layla into something totally new, slower, more introspective, with an almost casual confidence. And then of course there was Tears in Heaven, which added a deeply personal and emotional layer to the album. The whole project felt more reflective, and people really connected with that. It ended up winning 6 Grammys, including Album of the Year, and became the #1 best-selling live album of all time to this day. It wasn't just a live, cheesy MTV Unplugged performance. It was Clapton reintroducing himself to the world and proving he could still evolve as an artist. By 1969, Hendrix was the world's highest-paid rock musician. So where do you go from there? Well, he already was the highest paid before Woodstock in 1969. He headlined the Woodstock Festival that included many of the most popular bands and acts in the world at the time. He and his band rehearsed for less than 2 weeks before the performance, and according to reports, never really connected musically before arriving at the festival. Hendrix had heard that the size of the audience had grown enormously, which concerned him because he did not particularly enjoy performing for large crowds. The reason this performance was so pivotal in his career was because it included his iconic rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner, with lots of feedback, distortion, to kind of imitate the sounds of rockets and bombs, which has been described as his interpretation and as a statement against the Vietnam War. It's been described as most certainly the most electrifying moment of that Woodstock, and as probably the single greatest moment of the 60s, and even to this day is often cited as one of the greatest guitar performances of all time. So, while Hendrix certainly had already made a name for himself, he already set a guitar on fire at Monterey. So what was really left for him? And the answer was to make a shocking political statement through a guitar solo that would be immortalized forever. And to top it off, it took place at one of the most iconic music festivals of all time. The performance was the ultimate culmination of everything he stood for: unpredictability, musicianship, and most of all, just being a symbol for the guitar. So this changed his career in that it not only cemented him as a legendary guitarist, but gave him one of the greatest moments in guitar history that defined his generation and immortalized him in music history. By the time B.B. King recorded Live at the Regal in 1964, he was already a respected bluesman, but this album took things to a new level. It was recorded on November 21st, 1964, at the theater of the same name in Chicago, Illinois. You'll find it in just about every list of greatest albums and greatest live albums ever recorded. Rarely does it feel like a guitarist's peak performance is captured on a recording, but this was the case for B.B. King. And he even describes this performance himself as the moment that everything came together for him. Carlos Santana, Eric Clapton, John Mayer, and Mark Knopfler are among the guitarists who have claimed to listen to this album before their blues sets as a way to get amped up. So, if nothing else, this album had some very interesting influence on some of the all-time greats, and redefined the way B.B. King was listened to by some of the world's finest guitarists. All things considered, it's more than just a great live performance. It became the blueprint for live blues. Throughout his career, Prince was certainly known as an excellent guitar player, and it never came to the forefront more than during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony in 2004. This was the night that Prince was to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and alongside that would perform a variety of songs. He would also join Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, Donnie Harrison, and others on a tribute performance of While My Guitar Gently Weeps as a tribute to George Harrison, where Prince was to play the closing solo. The story goes that there were very little rehearsals that involved Prince performing that final solo, and right around this time, Rolling Stone had released a list of the world's greatest guitarists, and Prince was nowhere to be found on that list. So, this performance was ultimately in response to that publication. The solo itself lasts 2 minutes and 45 seconds, and it's pure excellence. It is Prince's peak guitar playing in action. It was so great and made such a statement that later on in a different edition of the Rolling Stone guitar list, Prince was included, where he was listed all the way up at 14. So this truly redefined how he was seen in the guitar world. Not only redefined his place on the Rolling Stone list, but redefined how other guitar players saw him as a legitimately amazing guitarist, which he always was, but the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance really took it to another level. Every one of these landmark performances did more than just entertain. They redefined careers, reshaped public perception, and set new benchmarks for what a guitarist could express on stage. Each of these legendary guitar players seized a moment in time and turned it into an enduring legacy.